So I think I told my students to obviously be prepared, but I think we had discussed that just to give us a little bit of a background on what you both went through, and then we can open it up for questions, if that's okay.
Let me give this 2-year-old a sucker really quick.
Okay.
I'm excited about sharing my story because it's good to get it out there, and I like what you guys are doing. It's amazing. Thank you
Right.
for
So,
inviting me.
of course. And as I think I said, my research assistant told me that she had been in contact with you. So I appreciate that as well. That somehow we all just got in touch, and I told her about the class that we have and bringing in other exonerees and learning about all the issues related to wrongful conviction. And so I have that class here, and I invited my 2 other classes. So some other students and colleagues have come just because they're interested and they want to hear what you have to say.
So we're gonna do a little rundown of what happened initially, and then kind of how she experienced things in prison, and then kind of what happened getting her out. We're really bad with criminal terminology, so
no, don't worry about that.
Okay. So we can start with August 25th, 1995.
97.
97. Let's see. We were on our way to McDonald's, and we were going to get a Happy Meal. So my mom and I jump in the car. It's about 2 blocks away, and we get to the McDonald's parking lot, and we park. And then we get out of the car, and we're about to walk into the McDonald's when 2 random undercover police officers grab her from my hand, throw her to the ground, and handcuff her. And it was crazy traumatic. Like, I still have nightmares about it. They pick her up, and then they search her, put her in the car, and they keep telling her that she is going to be taken downtown for questioning due to a murder. And they kept telling me that if I didn't stop crying, I would go to Child Protective Services. So then they decided to call my sister, which my mom had begged them to do for several minutes. And they agreed to drop me off at my sister's house prior to taking my mom downtown. And they took me to my sister's house. Her father, which we have different fathers, so her father was home at the time, and they dropped me off. And I remember crying in the back seat the whole time because they put me in the back seat with my mom, handcuffed, while dropping me off. And we get to the house, and the only thing I remember at that point was saying, "Mom, when are you going to be home? What's happening?" And she said, "Don't worry, baby. I'm just going to go answer some questions, and I'll be home for dinner."
That never happened. So I went downtown with Detective Wynn, and she put me in a little room, and she questioned me, and she really wasn't even really questioning me. She kept saying, "Susan Mellen, you were there. You were at the crime." And I said, "No, I wasn't. No, I wasn't." I can remember putting my hands up like this when she'd leave the room, and it was like I was just looking up to God and just saying, "Please help me." And she just never wanted to believe anything I said. She was very mean. Just accusing me of being there, and that she called me a liar. And I said, "No, I'm not lying. I'm telling the truth." So that was probably my worst nightmare that day. And then I remember going to jail, and I was in the county jail for at least 10 months. So I had a trial probably around the 8th month. So I went to trial, and it was like a short trial. My attorney wanted to have a short trial. And my attorney was kind of a family of the friend of our family. So I thought, well, he'll know what to do, and he knows I'm innocent. So I ended up.
Well, let me touch base on that really quick, because we got a family friend to take her case. Not only did we trust him, but we didn't have the money to get a criminal lawyer. So like for a criminal case, it's so much more expensive. At that time I was 9 years old, but my grandma was paying for it. And it was kind of like, if you don't have the money, you can't have that good representation. And we were fearful to go with a district attorney. So.
And I thought, well, he didn't know, the district attorney wouldn't know that I was innocent. So I thought going with an attorney, a personal attorney, it would work in my favor, which ended up being a nightmare. So I went to trial. I think it lasted maybe, I want to say 10 days. And in the trial, all I remember is that this June Patty, the woman that kept lying on me, kept telling stories after stories, and they couldn't even keep up with their stories. And then my attorney was falling asleep, and it was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. How can an attorney fall asleep when, I really need him to defend me at the time where he wasn't defending me? And I ended up hearing the judge say, Miss Mellen, I thought he said 25 to life. So I ended up finding out later, 6 months later, my mom passed away when I was in prison. So I actually heard my counselor. I went to my counselor's office and I said, could I go to my mom's funeral? Because usually if your family will pay for it, you could go to the funeral, but of course you'll be cuffed and shackled. So I thought, I didn't care. I wanted to say bye to my mom. And so the counselor told me, Miss Mellen, don't you know you can't even leave this prison? Don't you know you have life without the possibility of parole? And I go, what's that? I go, life without the possible parole. I didn't even know what it meant. I mean, I was so in denial, and I was so terrified when the day that I got, I was in shock the day that I got sentenced. Even the judge asked me, well, Miss Mellen, what do you have to say for yourself? I go, I say that one day God will bring the truth out, and I'll be walking out of this courthouse, and that the truth would come out. So I believe that. And that was one of the last things I said in court that day. So then when going to prison and my mom passed away, the counselor told me that I had life without the possibility of parole, which put me in shock probably for 5 years. I was probably devastated, and I probably couldn't have handled it in the courtroom. So for some reason, I believe God, death in my ears, and I probably would have had a heart attack if I would have heard life without the possibility of parole, because we know it's a death sentence. So when he told me that I would never go home, and I go, what does that mean? He goes, Miss Mellen, you will go home in a pine box. I go, a pine box? I mean, I'm like, why would you even say that? And I just heard my mom passed away. So I was totally in shock, and it was just a horrible nightmare. So then all these years gone by in depression, and just so, just talking about being, in the prison for 17 years. So I was actually in prison for 17 years. And I actually would, turn to God and go to church, because I felt like that was the only strength I had. But I think Jessica was really my angel. She was my strength too, because Jessica would always tell me, don't worry, Mom, you'll come home one day. So she was like my little angel, and kept me from, and I had another daughter, an older daughter than a son. He was 1 year younger than Jessica, but I didn't really hear from them as much as I did Jessica. Me and Jessica, I think, had a really good connection, because she was there with me when I got arrested, and which was the worst thing that could ever happen to a 9-year-old. So she would write me and tell me, don't worry, Mom, you're gonna come home one day. And, we kept believing that one day I would come home. So, and then about 5 years before I actually got help, I actually had Innocent Project was helping my case for about the last seven years. But then the last 5 years, I actually just wanted to believe that I would, get out one day. Go ahead, Jessica, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, during the time she was in there for 17 years, she had never been arrested prior to this. So she had no history. A lot of our family members kind of didn't believe that she did it, but believed that she might have had something to do with it, because everyone has that mindset that police are supposed to have integrity, and the judicial system is supposed to do the right thing. And for a lot of the cases, they might do the right thing, but there are some that fall through the cracks. So in her case, a lot of our family members and friends would say, like, there's something about it, but there wasn't. She was completely innocent. I believed from day one. I was with her the day that the murder happened. We weren't there, but I was too young to testify. So that was a huge issue for us growing up, because I felt guilty that I couldn't help my mom when.
It made you angry too. It made her very angry as a little girl, that why couldn't I be there and help my mom? Because I did forget to tell you the story that we actually were together the day that the murder happened, that we were actually moving.
We were moving from one place to another, and we had evidence and everything. Yeah. We had an alibi, we had witnesses, and it just didn't go the way that we planned it to go. And then growing up, you have people say, oh, everyone in prison say they're innocent. And then you have people say, you can't play with her because her mom's a murderer. you know, so you have those issues, those obstacles that you have to jump through. But to be honest, when I got to be 18, I kind of started working like hand in hand with Innocence Project, because they initially picked up her case in 2006, and they're a good nonprofit, don't get me wrong, but they focus on DNA, and her case was not DNA. Her case was all about a one witness statement. So it took 7 years for them to even realize that they weren't going anywhere. And during that time, there was a guy who got a hold of us, and we really trusted him. His name was Mark Finn, and he had been in prison for something wrong. And he had said he was wrongfully convicted, and that he was out trying to help people who were in prison that were wrongfully convicted. So we trusted him, and he ended up taking a lot of money from the family, and he was a fraud. So when someone's in a vulnerable situation, and like, we want my mom home and we're in desperate need to get her home, like, we'd believe anything. And he's like, I can help, I can do this, I can do that. And it was terrible. But in 2014, Deirdre O'Connor, which was Innocence Matters, a different nonprofit organization, she came about my mom in prison because she was visiting her for another case that my mom's name popped up for, just because the same people who murdered the guy my mom was in prison for also were involved in another case. So they wanted to see, since she was convicted with the same people, the same names, maybe she knows something else. My mom, when she visited my mom, she was asking my mom questions. And then she said that day, the first visit, she knew my mom was innocent. My mom had no idea who these people were. My mom didn't know any of the murderers. You know, my mom knew of them, but didn't know them.
I didn't actually know the one gang member that actually was there at the murder that they said killed my ex-boyfriend. I never knew him ever, never met him until on arraignment day going to court. And I go, oh, that's what that guy looks like. And then his name, they called him Ghost. But so I never knew the true actual guy, the perpetrator that did the murder. So me not knowing him, and I kept telling my lawyer, I don't know him. So can't he get on stand and say, I never knew her? But he never did make a point to do that.
Yeah, he can't make himself guilty on the stand,
right?
Is what I tried to explain to her. Like,
I know.
he's not going to say, oh, she wasn't there, because then
No, well,
that would put him.
He could have said he never knew me, and then so how could that story be true that June Patty lied on? I mean, I was, you know, you're all kinds of thoughts.
He told her on the bus on the way to court. He told her, he said, don't worry, nothing's going to happen to you. We know you weren't there.
Yeah.
On the bus to court.
And
so she had faith, and then.
And somebody was there on the bus with me that was able to testify.
Someone witnessed that and testified later.
Mm-hmm. And then the other story I wanted you to share, Jessica, is when we were, when I was in the, I was in prison, and one of the gang member, actually you and Julie went and
one of the gang members who actually was in the room that happened to be in the room when the murder happened, he called my phone randomly out of the blue in 2014 and told me, I need to speak with you. It's about your mother. And I said, oh my gosh. So I was late for work because I was speaking to him in the parking lot. And I said, what is it? Like, who are you? And he goes, you don't know me, but your mom took my place. And I was there that when it happened, and your mom wasn't there. And I said, you what? Like, I was just blown away. So I said, you know, what's your name? He told me his name. He goes, I don't want to talk about this over the phone because I don't want there to be any recording, and I'm kind of freaked out about it. But the woman who was with my mom, who witnessed that statement on the bus, she got a hold of him because she knew he was the only one not convicted. He never got tried. He was in prison for another crime at the time. So she told him, you need to tell the truth. Just tell the truth. Like, this family's suffering. So I asked him to meet me at Olive Garden. And at that time, Deirdre was already taking my mom's case. So we met at Olive Garden face to face, and I wired myself with Deirdre. We got his recording and the details of the entire murder on tape, and we took it to the DA's office. Now, I know it's not admissible in court, but it was enough to reopen the case. And we did this confidential hearing that we weren't allowed to speak about at the time because they threatened us that we would get arrested. So everyone got subpoenaed to court, everyone who was involved in 97, and the truth ended up coming out. And that's how they transferred her to county jail. Deirdre took 10 months to get her out. Deirdre got into the case January 2014, And then she was
October
released
10/10.
October
14.
10th, 2014. So we like to call her our pit bull.
Yes.
So she's a
Yeah,
pit
she
bull.
is a pit bull.
Um,
She was my angel, and then she turned out to be my pit bull. But it was on her birthday that day too, and she said
That she got out.
I was thundering on her. And what was it?
She said you're raining on her parade. Just
Yeah,
kidding.
and I
Just
said,
kidding.
well, this is pretty exciting that you're helping this woman get out of prison after 17 years. And so I never forget her birthday is 10/10. But
I actually have it tattooed right here.
yeah,
It's a key to my mom's cell and 10/10/14 because I really feel like I played a big part in getting her out. So
and when you asked, what was it you asked the gang member when you met him? And what was it you asked him? And what did he tell you? You didn't say that part.
well, I asked him for details of how the murder happened, and then I asked him how he can keep this in him for 17 years and how he couldn't come forward prior to this and why it took so long.
And didn't you ask him, is my mom innocent?
I asked him if my mom was innocent. He said yes. And then I also asked him, I said, I just want you to know, and I hope you know that I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get my mom out.
Mhm.
And I said, so with that being said, I'm just letting you know, because I knew he was being recorded. And it was terrifying. Like, he had tattoos from head to toe. Absolutely scariest thing in my mind. Like, I mean, and tattoos don't scare me, but I know he was a part of M something. I forget the name of it. M something gang. I don't know. And he was still active. So I just told him, I said, I just want you to know. And he goes, yeah, I do the same for my mom, you know, like, it's all good. I'm like,
Okay.
So,
Okay, hold on.
I mean, it is what it is. The story, we feel like should stay alive because we dealt with so many obstacles. But we really feel like it'll help people in the long run because there's so many different aspects of the story. There's, you know, the integrity of the prosecutor. There's the family getting lost memories. You know, there's the Innocence Project trying and like not being able to do anything, and Deirdre coming in and swooping in and getting her out in 10 months. So there's just so many different tiers to this. And then her faith throughout prison and everything she went through. You know, she changed the word LWOP in prison. Instead of life without the possibility of parole, she actually told people in prison that it meant
life with one purpose. And I also, what I did about 5 years before I got released, I got a box. Every 3 months you get a box with all kinds of, you know, gifts and whatever you order in it. And my friend sent me a box. And in the box I had brand new white tennis shoes. And when I sat on my bed, I said, I just heard, I feel like it was a small voice, which the Holy Spirit said, get your black marker out. And I go, okay, got my black marker out. And I actually it was a spirit, you know, like a small voice telling me, I want you to write freedom on the bottom of your shoes. And I go, okay, so look at these shoes. I wrote freedom on the bottom of my shoes. And look how there's a little edge to write freedom, because I knew that there was freedom no matter what, that I knew that one day God would set me free. And that was what I told the judge that day that I got sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. But I think, and then there was another time when I was in prison where the officers, when I turned 55, and they kind of laugh and make jokes at you, and it was a nightmare, where he said, oh, Miss Mellen, you get a double mattress now. And I go, oh my gosh, okay, I don't want a double mattress. I'm not going to get comfortable here. This isn't my home. And I think my roommates were a little upset with me, thinking, why don't you want to get comfortable here? You have a life without, you'll never go home. And I said, oh my gosh, I am going to go home one day. So I think my faith kind of was my source of strength. But thank you. I think we're done. Okay.
Yeah, thank you for sharing all of those things. I love the tattoo and then the shoes as well. It's just extra things, like you guys said. It's just an amazing story, just from so many different perspectives. I'm going to open it up now to see if anybody wants to jump in with questions for either of them. Can be a little shy sometimes.
I have a quick question. So the person who ended up confessing to committing it, did he ever get convicted?
That's a good question, actually. So after 10 years, there's a statute of limitation for an accessory to a murder. And so his story the entire time was, I never held the knife. I never did anything to hurt this guy. I was in the room. I was at the wrong place at the wrong time. So he never got convicted, which kind of helped us because during the process of his confession, he took a lie detector test, and he also confessed at that trial, but he confessed that he was an accessory. So there was like this protection. And so he was able to do that under protection, which to me feels like, either way, I wanted my mom home, so I didn't care. But at the same time, I'm thinking like, dude, this guy was there and like, he's totally guilty. But yeah, there's a statute of limitation on an accessory to murder. There's none for murder, but there is for accessory. So no, he didn't get convicted.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Kind of good, because honestly, you guys, like, I felt like he was going to come after me when I turned him in. So I was like, I don't really want him to be convicted at the time, because I didn't want him and his gang or his posse to come after me. So that was scary.
Mhm.
We have a question from Laura. She said, did you ever get compensated, or are you guys still working on that?
So it took a long time. It took almost 5 years to sue. And we did have a lawsuit pending for forever, but we did get compensated. If you Google my mom's name, you'll see how much. However, she does have to pay the lawyers 40%. So she didn't walk with that entire amount, but she was able to walk with enough to keep her happy for the rest of her life.
Amen. I'm very thankful for that.
Didn't realize 40%. That's a lot.
Yeah.
But
It never would have happened. So
If they would have taken 80% just to get out, I would have still been happy.
okay.
Freedom is, you can't pay for that.
Tiana wants to know, how old were you when you wired yourself to talk to the gang member?
27. And my husband was very upset because he didn't want me to go. But I told him, I have to do what I have to do, because later on I'm going to look back and say I didn't try as hard as I needed to figure out whether or not it would have worked. So now he's like proud of me, but at the time he slept with a hatchet by his bed for 6 months. It was pretty scary.
Daniel asks, was there any other legal events that happened later on that had to do with the case or those involved?
The first appeal got denied, remember?
Do you mean prior to her getting out, or do you mean after she got out, did anything happen to any of the other people?
Afterwards.
Oh, okay. So after she got out, there wasn't anything that happened, because there's 3 murderers involved. One of them got convicted of murder, did life without the possibility of parole, so he's already gone. The second one was acquitted, so double jeopardy law, they couldn't even retry him. So because he was acquitted and he gave a bunch of information which ended up being false, but he got acquitted. The third one was the one that came forward and it confessed to me, but he was an accessory. So there was nothing else done after my mom got out legally.
I'm just curious. Sorry.
That's okay.
Can I talk?
Yes.
I'm just curious because the informant, June Patty, am I right? Did your defense lawyer present her during the trial?
So the defense lawyer at the time was an older man, and he had health issues, and he was on a lot of medication because he had a stroke a year prior. So we feel like we weren't as confident in him during the trial because he wasn't doing as much as he said he was going to do prior to the trial. But he tried to cross-examine her, and it just didn't go as he planned, I guess. I wasn't at the trial, I was 9 years old, but what I had been told was he did fall asleep, he dozed off. It's in the transcripts because the judge had to call his name 3 times to get him up. And then June Patty's story was so conflicted, she changed. So during the preliminary, she had one story, then during the trial, she had 2 separate stories. And so we just didn't understand how the jurors could convict her. But
Yeah.
because my mom, the person who passed away, the person who was murdered was my mom's ex-boyfriend. And
Uh-huh.
murder happened in my grandmother's home. My grandma wasn't home. My grandma was in a long-term nursing home. So it was a vacant home that my uncles let transients sleep in. So like
Uh-huh.
lots of drug trafficking in that home that no one knew about at the time. That's kind of why my mom got cornered, because it was the
Yeah,
house.
she was the
ex-boyfriend.
girlfriend. Yeah, got you. Thank you.
She's gonna be so hyper after all these subjects.
Oh, no.
Just trying to get back to where we were. We had a question about if either of you went through any counseling, particularly you, since you were so young when everything happened, if you feel comfortable talking about it.
So I when my mom got arrested and the trial happened, and then my sister came home and told me that my mom was never coming home, I turned angry immediately. At 9 years old, you don't know how to figure that out. So I was an angry child. I got in many fights from the age of 5th grade to 8th grade. Many fights, like almost kicked out of the district type of thing. And my sisters took me in, they raised me, they put me in counseling. It got better over time. And then my sister and my brother, who are my mom's biological, they were the types that held it in. They would suppress their feelings and not talk about it. My brother used to tell people all the time, my mom's dead, she passed away, just so that he didn't want to say she was in prison. And I would tell people I would talk about it all the time. I didn't have an issue talking about it. But when I would talk about it, they thought one or the other were lying, because we were only 16 months apart. So some people were like, I thought your mom was dead. And then some people were like, wait, is she in prison? So it was very, very, very confusing. But yes, we did seek counseling, and it helped a lot. And my mom did counseling in prison, right?
I did a little bit, but yeah, I think I was more just doing Bible studies and running to church and being working for the chaplain at church. I think God was my source of strength, and that was what I kind of ran to, because I was desperate and I was hurting, and I was brokenhearted, and I thought, well, they say God would heal me, and so that was pretty much my faith, and just trusting what God was going to do.
Excellent.
I have a question for Jessica. Jessica, did your lawyer file a petition for writ of habeas corpus for your mom?
The one that got her out?
Yes, that can get her out before.
Yes.
But how come it took so long?
So my mom had a couple appeals during the time that she was in prison, and they got denied. And then the Innocence Project was the nonprofit organization that had my mom's case originally. And that case, primarily they work on DNA. So my mom's case wasn't DNA based. So it took 7 years. Then when this new lawyer got involved, she's nonprofit as well. Her name's Deirdre O'Connor. She works for Innocence Matters. She took my case January 2014, and she filed right away. But it took a while, because the Innocence Project didn't do that, because they didn't want to do it and then not know how to prove it. But then when Deirdre got it, she filed it right away. So I think it was just kind of a waiting game. Like Deirdre knew my mom was innocent because she knew the people that were involved, and she knew that they were lying, and that's what helped.
So ultimately, we have the recording. You went to the DA, they reopened the case, and then how exactly did they ultimately result to her being released?
So she was, it was like I don't know the terms, but it was a confidential hearing. It was a grand jury hearing.
Okay.
So what they did was they put us in a room with a bunch of jurors, like tons of them, way more than 12. And we did a trial. Essentially, the DAs were able to ask everybody questions, and everything was recorded. And They even brought like the lie detector tests as evidence in some cases just for them to hear it. But ultimately they realized that June Patty had passed away, I believe 2008. So she wasn't able to even defend herself, but they had so much evidence prior to that, like of her harassing the police. She was a cop or a police officer informant. She was like, she would get her warranty rate. There was a note in the file. She got warrants taken away if she would discuss details about some crime, that was going on. And she called Washington, I believe it was Washington Police Department. She called them over 1,000 times in 1 week. So she was almost a nuisance. Like she would always put people in situations that they didn't belong in. So ultimately, what it came down to was we had her sister as a witness for this. Her sister works for LAPD, I believe. It was one of the Torrance Court. So Torrance, she was a police officer for Torrance, City of Torrance. And she said on recording, like at this grand jury hearing, my sister wasn't to be trusted. She lied all the time. She would do anything to get her warrants or to get the police off of her. Plus with all of that information being that June Patty was lying informant and that she shouldn't have been trusted during the trial initially, plus the Santos Alvarez, which is the gang member who confessed to me, and then him confessing that he was there and my mom wasn't. Those two things ultimately helped my mom's release.
Okay.
And 2 weeks after I actually got my innocence, I actually got factual innocent. And that's usually a really hard one. Factual innocent doesn't happen a lot of times, and there's not a lot of factual innocence. So I did get factual innocent 2 weeks later, which is huge. And I know, I really believe I had a great attorney, Deirdre O'Connor, and my angel and Pitbull, and of course God, he just worked it all out. And I got what I deserved.
Exactly. I have a student asking, at one point you talked about lawyers' fees, and she said, I thought the Innocence Project helps clients for free.
Yeah, we were talking about how initially with her first case, her first trial when she first got arrested, we had to get a lawyer for her before she was convicted. So that was the family lawyer we were talking about. And usually back then, and I don't know how it is now, but criminal lawyers are over 60 grand.
He was 25.
And my grandma paid him, I think 25 grand, because he was a family friend, but he didn't really know what he needed to do for a criminal case because he really focused on divorces. So it could have been our fault for choosing him, but we also trusted him. So we didn't know. He shouldn't have taken the case.
And I think maybe we were talking about the compensation and why she was getting confused.
Oh, okay. So we didn't have to pay nonprofit anything. The nonprofit organization does everything for free. When she was compensated and the lawyers took 40%, we had to hire lawyers for her civil case. So after she got out, she didn't owe anyone money. She did donate to the organization that helped her get out, but for the civil lawsuit, we had to hire civil lawsuit lawyers, and they take 40. Well, they take based on how long it takes, and because it took 5 years, they take 40%.
Okay, I think that probably answers that. It is interesting that the lead detective in this case was also the lead detective in 2 other wrongful conviction cases.
Yeah,
Correct.
we know them too, personally.
Yes.
Wow.
Yep. So 3 people have gotten exonerated, and she was the detective on all 3 of the cases.
And I forgot to say, one student said, just a comment, I love how you stuck by your mom. I would have done the same.
Cry.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, my angel. She was an angel. She still is my angel.
Get that tattooed on you.
I know. I don't have
Do
a
you have any? No?
I'm scared of needles.
Yeah. Can you explain a little bit more about how what your interrogation was like, if you are okay with sharing that?
I want to tell you guys, if you go to YouTube and you type in Susan Mellen interrogation, you can see
It's there? Oh,
our lawyer put together a 17 different videos of my mom's case. So there's like video 1 talks about her arrest, and I'm talking in it about the McDonald's story. Video 2 is the interrogation. Video 3 is about the gang members. So there's a lot of like footage of the entire case for because she likes to show what she does, like when she gets people out. So it was really cool that she did that. I want to let you know my dog chewed up my charger for my computer and it's at 5%. Just giving you.
Okay.
We have an 8-week-old puppy, so.
Oh, we love dogs. So we'll definitely look at that. We started talking about interrogations the last couple classes, but I was talking to you before. I think we had just finished talking about informants and snitches, and that really obviously goes to what happened with you in this case.
One of the videos she posted, I think, for that YouTube 17-day journey is snitches, and it was of June Patty and all that, like weird situation. But.
Do you think there's, or have you thought about ways, or I'm trying to think of a way to ask this. Is there any, if you could do any particular law to use or not use snitches, have you thought about what you would want? Because we've talked about like trying to make the system better. Like if we can't get rid of them.
Go get him. Go get him.
I don't know.
It's so complicated because we feel like the case shouldn't be based on just one witness in general. There should be more to, you know, proving somebody's innocence or proving someone's guiltiness, especially if they're going to jail for life without the possibility of parole or even death row. Like that's a serious crime and serious time for those who didn't do it. Like you would have to be factually proven innocent or guilty. I feel like the whole witness program situation is so backwards. Like I want them to be able to like enforce a background check. Like if they've been arrested multiple times and they've been drug using, or, you know, because she was a heavy drug user. She had multiple warrants. She's gotten, you know, warrants taken away based on turning other people in for things. And I just feel like they should be more proactive about like doing background checks, or at least making sure that these people are right, or, you know, not lying. But I don't know if a lie detector test could come in handy with just that situation. It's hard to tell.
Yeah,
Every situation. But
definitely echoing what you're talking about. We talked about at least corroboration, but, you know, being very strict on what actually would be used as corroboration, because some cases, we had another exoneree that had 2 separate snitches, so one could potentially corroborate the other, but they were both making stuff up, so even that isn't good enough.
And what's hard too is back in the day, I don't know how it is now, but back in the day, every time that prosecutor would get somebody prosecuted, every time somebody would go to jail, and every time she would close that case, she would get points, and she would get, you know, that what is it called? When you're promoted or whatever. Like she just kept climbing the ladder because she was closing all these cases, and it turned out like we cracked 3 out of however many she has. Like there might be way more in prison that are innocent because she threw them in. We don't know. But when my mom filed her civil lawsuit, she was quick to resign. So
that's the reality.
Suspicious, eh?
So what are you looking forward to most now, both of you?
Well, we want to go on a vacation. We can't really do much, but I just enjoying our life every day, just enjoying moment to moment and being grateful, and you know, watching my grandchildren grow up and being with them. That to me, that's so amazing, because I didn't get to see my children grow up. They were so young, the 2 little ones. My older one I did, but just not missing out on stuff now. I was like, oh my gosh, it's just so amazing. I feel
She was
blessed.
she missed my brother's wedding. She missed my sister's wedding. She missed my
Aw.
brother's kid. She missed my sister's kid. My husband and I were together for 9 years before we got married because I kept telling him, I'm like, she's going to be out. They're working on her case. Like, I'm not getting married until she gets out.
And you know, the day he asked her to marry her, he was at the beach, and it was the day I got arrested. But like years later, on August 25th, he actually said, Jessica, will you marry me? He didn't even know that date when she wrote me and told me. I cried like a baby, and I go, see how it was turned around, something that was really bad, you know, what was meant for evil. God can always make something good. And I really honor Eric so much, her husband. He's so amazing too. And I'm just blessed.
Yeah, so she got to witness that, and then I had Coral.
Yeah, I
which
got
is
to
right
witness
here.
Coral.
She
Yeah.
witnessed that. So just like different things that she had lost out on forever. I mean, little memories here and there. The big ones for me, she got to witness, which is really great.
Yeah.
So
And my grandson, he was a year and a half when they handed him to me, and you can see the picture where I'm just ecstatic.
Oh, yeah.
But when we drove by the courthouse, when he got to be about 2.5, 3 years old, he goes, Grandma's store. And we're like, Grandma's store? What's Grandma's store? He goes, that's where that's where I picked up Grandma. So, I mean, kids are so precious. But
he still says that. He's 7
Yeah.
and he still says grandma's store every time we
yeah. And when I took him to the park one day, my daughter came home, the front door was wide open. She goes, Mom, when I came home, the doors were open. She goes, what, you left the doors open? I go, well, I never had a key in prison. I guess I didn't know how to lock the door. I mean, I had to learn so many things over. And how
It was literally raising a baby for the first 2 years.
It wasn't that bad.
She left doors open. Even when she went to the
Refrigerator.
bathroom, because she wasn't allowed to in prison, her fridge was always open. She didn't know how to use the phone. She would yell at everyone because they were stuck to the phone. Now she's stuck to the phone. I mean,
Whatever.
little things, like the sirens would go off and she would drop to her knees for a head count. I'm like, Mom, you don't have to do that. Like in public, like she would drop to her knees. At 4 o'clock in the morning, she would be sitting on the edge of her bed for a head count. I'm like, Mom, like she would wake up and just sit there, and I'm like, you're done. You're in the elevator. She would face the wall.
And the officer told me, Miss Mellen, turn around. You're free.
You don't
And then
have
when
to,
I
yeah.
learned how to drive, I was so terrified to drive because of so many cars and so much different. Now when I got, so it took me about over a year to learn how to drive again and then to get my license because I was kind of terrified. But I had to just learn everything all over again. When I went to prison, we had beepers. So, you know, from a beeper to a phone that's smarter than me, oh my gosh, I was just like, wow.
Yeah, it's a lot to learn. I know there's a lot of people, I don't want to not tell this to you guys, but because your computer might die, they're saying, thank you so much for sharing your time and sending virtual hugs. And I love when she said life with one purpose and the freedom shoes. So they're all giving you lots of love just in case it does die.
Yeah, well, I just think the most important thing is to have hope and to have integrity no matter what you decide to do with your career, you guys, when you guys graduate, whether you're an officer, a lawyer, or anybody in between, just do the right thing. And if you have that gut feeling that someone's innocent, or you have that gut feeling that something's not being said or done the right way, you know, just go with that gut feeling and be strong with it, you know, and just follow through because that just helps a lot of people.
And if they have eye contact and they're telling you they're innocent and they have eye contact, but I mean, I really believe that give them a chance, but I do.
Don't listen to her. A good liar can have eye contact.
But it will help some way. I don't think you can keep looking at eye contact, but I think if you just,
She's
somebody,
old school.
I
She's
know.
been gone for a very long time, so don't listen to that.
but I really believe if somebody says they're innocent, at least investigate and, you know, check it out and check all angles and, you know, and
Don't just go with it because you
Yeah.
think that you're afraid to
Yeah.
speak up.
go the extra mile, get, you know, really investigate on the other side and the people that saying they're guilty when they're saying they're innocent. So yeah, it's huge.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it really ties in with just to point out to the students that we talked about biases and tunnel vision, and everything that you're talking about is trying to combat that regarding if you're a prosecutor, a defense lawyer, a police officer, anything, just to keep an open mind is something we keep talking about in lots of the different sections. And so you echoing that is
today more than ever, it's hard
Yeah.
to not have that open mind and not have that tunnel vision because of everything that's going on in the world. But be that voice, be that person that stands up for the right thing.
I think the prison system is a money-making industry. I've always said that. Also, I do have an attorney that got a lot of people out of prison. And I even talked to a few of my girlfriends that did time in prison, one 40 years, one 19 years, but they all want to do this with you guys. So I have a list of people.
right.
So we can, whatever you want,
If you want more
somebody's name.
stories,
Yeah,
let us know.
I got plenty of stories to keep you guys rolling, and I know it's gonna be great.
Yes, well, we're always glad to hear them and just to share them with students because they don't really hear them unless they take classes like this. So I think I need to maybe set some up for the whole department because the ones that come and sign up for a wrongful convictions class arguably are a little bit more open-minded and wanting to learn than the rest. So I think that might be the next step too, to try and reach the others that aren't signing up for a class like this, but still need to know.
Yeah.
They need to hear
Also,
these
the
things.
Innocent Network, they're gonna have another Innocent Network. It'll be in Arizona next
Meeting.
year meeting. And that if you guys really want to get involved and see some of the life stories, and they teach you classes like that you guys can learn.
There's like
more.
webinars too,
Yeah.
but you can go to this convention and you meet over 300 people who have been wrongfully convicted throughout their life. Some people on death row who tell you
Yeah.
their story, and it's amazing. I went to Orlando the first time with my mom, and it was life changing.
And they have workshops too. They have workshops for the ones that are going to school to be lawyers. And the workshops, you will learn
help you.
so much. And it's just amazing. And so Arizona is the next one. So I would, check that out.
Because it's close enough to drive, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I know I went to the one in San Diego, and I wanted to go to Chicago, but obviously that got canceled. But
Dude, I know.
hopefully this
We're at
next one.
1%, just letting
Okay.
you know.
Yeah, well, we can end so you don't actually have it just die mid-sentence or anything. We just want to thank you so much for both of you being present and our little girl there for being a good helper during it. Thank you very much. Hi. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you guys so much, and for providing both of your unique perspectives, especially to Jessica. Like I said, we didn't have any family members so far, and obviously for both of you, this is very emotional. This is your life, and we really appreciate you sharing this with us. Just wanted to echo that one more time.
Thank you.
God
Yeah,
bless.
but you can check out the story on YouTube if you decide.
Yeah, I'll definitely find that stuff and send it to them.
Okay.
Hi, Jessica. He just wants to say bye to you and your little girl.
Oh, look at Coral. Look,
There's another little
baby.
Watch. He's been watching her the whole time, but she couldn't see
Aw.
him. So he was like, say hi. Look, she could see you.
Well, you guys
Oh, there we go.
have a good day.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.